What's going on, guys? Welcome to In the Zone. I'm your host, Garrison Roy, and today we're going to have a little bit of a rant. But if you're new to the podcast, we do have several different types of segments here on In the Zone where we go into full-length interviews with experts, athletes, and other coaches, finding out what their zone is, and then also mental minutes, those quick mental game hacks to help elevate your performance, and then also deep dive educational explorations or into really any small intricacies of the game. But if you have any other questions that you want answered, topics that you want to kind of hear be discussed, or even some guest suggestions, right? Feel free to reach out, let us know. And if you know someone who needs to hear this episode, please share it. We don't really monetize this in any way. So all we ask is that you give us value. If I give you value back, right, we'll just have that little bit of a value exchange. But for today's rant, we're going to go a little bit on the obsession with drills or things outside of the actual sport, right? The pitching industry is kind of flourishing with it, and obviously hitting, there's a lot of things there where you have all these little gimmicks, these little things. And again, I'm not saying that either one of them are wrong or necessarily inherently bad altogether. Maybe some of them can, influence bad movement patterns and things like that if the intention or what you're trying to do with it is done incorrectly. I think that goes with anything, right? That's with plyo balls, or you can insert towel drill. And I think some of you who's listened to me for a while know my thoughts on the towel drill. But hey, if you're like trying to jump out and slap a chair in front of you, right? Like it's not going to give you the best pattern of what it's actually going to be like in a game, right? It's a little bit lighter, so you're not going to have as much layback. But if your main focus for that towel drill on the mound is for you to work on your lower half, hey, that might be it. Or maybe it's a water bag thing, right? Like you're not actually throwing anything, you're still holding on to this little, tube full of water, this little sphere, and that's still, not exactly like it. But again, I kind of ask like, hey, what's your intent? What is your adaptation that you're trying to go for? Or what's the purpose behind why you're doing it? Right? But if you cling to it, and I'm guilty of this, I've done this in the past with my career. So I want to make sure that you guys as players or even as coaches don't stick to one thing, or you hear the one size fits all where everyone has to do this one thing, or this is the answer for everyone, right? You got to kind of steer clear away from that. And you can kind of branch out into other ideas with that, but just kind of using that one as an example, right? There's a lot of things that can be kind of forced upon you, and maybe it doesn't fit for you. And if it doesn't feel right, if it's not improving your performance, my honest opinion is like, hey, well, maybe take a step back, and maybe it's not for you, or maybe you need to find something that does work for you, right? um, this goes with long toss. This goes with, maybe different pitch types, right? If everyone's trying to do the exact same thing or trying to fit you into a box or bucket A or bucket B without there being any nuance to be had there, it's kind of really, I hate to say it, but it's disappointing to see people just kind of only think that people are black or white when there's a lot of gray, right? Not trying to get into the actual racist portion of that and physiological terms, but this is more than that, right? This is something where you need to learn how to think for yourself. This is something where you need to learn and find out what works for you as a player, what works for you as a coach, and maybe sometimes your philosophy as a coach can contradict, right? You have certain things where like, hey, I'm really into long toss and all this, but then maybe you have a guy that comes across your plate and he doesn't like long toss. Sometimes you got to be willing to pivot from that and be like, okay, hey, if this doesn't work for him, he's a sinker baller guy and doesn't like to do long toss. I can't force him to do long toss, but we need to find another way to get an adaptation of what I'm looking for. So that adaptation being, hey, we're going to still throw hard today, or today's a medium day, whatever. Usually you might be doing that for distance, but now it's like, okay, hey, now we're just using a pocket radar gun and just going off of pure RPE or intent. right? And that's really all what I'm trying to get out here is don't be married to one specific philosophy or one specific tool, right? Insert whatever you'd want to put in here, right? This is where I think a lot of people struggle, right? Like they want to be told what to do. They want to have the exact regimented thing to do, but they don't have any feel to know what works best for them or what might work best for an athlete in a particular situation. Not having everybody be an IVB guy or not having everybody throw at the knees, not everybody having the same type of swing, right? There's different ways to kind of chop this up, but in essence, right, don't be obsessed with your drills or don't be obsessed with the nuances and keep the main thing, zoom out, see the big picture, make sure that your performance is improving and stay in the zone.